Anthia, Bronte, welcome.
Thank you for
Th-
having me.
It's so good to
Hello.
have you here.
Thank you.
This is our first co-creating wellness webinar, Bronte,
Yes, it
which is
is very
amazing. And
exciting.
and it's part of a bookended set with this incredible ebook that we've collaborated on with Anthea around restoring hormonal balance.
Yeah, it was really nice to co-produce actually, and pull out what's really important information. I was thinking of a lot of my patients as I was pulling out the information as what do they really need to know, improve their health literacy, so then it feel more empowered to take care of their health.
I love that. I love that terminology, health literacy.
Mm.
Talk to us about this. I mean, we want to dig into your background because this is not just let's tackle a clinical condition. This is let's learn about you. Let's talk about your practice in particular. Um,
Oh, thank you.
how does this concept of health literacy weave into your personal narrative?
Yeah, I think it's the thing that I think that I offer have been offering my patients for the last 28 years, and I think it's very reflective of my personality of wanting to do things really well,
Yeah,
not to be hyper vigilant or hyper controlled or hyper perfect when I say that, though there's history of that. That I think a lot of patients come so bewildered and in this space of mystery with chronic ongoing persistent symptoms.
yeah,
And I want them to know how things work. I can't just be the bearer of information. So for me, I give a lot, I prepare a lot, I share a lot, I discuss a lot. We have a really good collaboration when it comes to addressing their underlying causes and contributing factors. I want them to understand it because
yeah,
most of the time they come along and they don't know how things work. They
yeah.
don't know what impacts what.
Well, it's interesting because that's really the situation for most of us in modern life now, right? We
Mm.
treat our bodies the same way we treat our cars. You know, there's computers now in most cars. Most of us wouldn't know how to do anything with the engine. We're lucky if we can change the tire.
Well,
Yeah.
there's so many
To
factors to
what do you
keep up with
attribute
these
this
days as
sort of
well, isn't there?
right, right?
Um, I think, a lot of people don't think like us practitioners holistically, natural health practitioners.
Yep.
So, because everything is broken down to these simple things. You have this, you take this, you get this, do that.
Symptom based, reductionist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm like, no, expand. And I think this is such a good thing. Then I want them to fall in love with that. Like I have on my newsletter every week a new definition of holistic healing to
Yeah.
keep me accountable as well. Because it's so good that we've got all these different levers that influence disease and influence health and healing. How cool is that?
Mm.
So it's I'm always looking at all the possibilities and never just this one underlying cause because there isn't one underlying cause and not when someone's got chronic ongoing persistent symptoms. There are multiple factors that have come into play.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
then what I love is meeting all those parts, whether it's emotional, whether it's unmet parts of themselves that need addressing, whether it's something that they're doing with diet and lifestyle, and bringing them into light and helping integrate that into the whole. And I think also is having a conversation with all those different parts and really getting up close and personal with those parts that influence how you think and feel. And with parts, I mean feelings, symptoms, how we self care, healthcare, etc.
Yeah. The totality of it. So, but how did I guess your philosophy and your approach to healing in a natural way is incredible. And I know you've had this. I can't believe because you don't look older than 28. You've had this
Oh my
28 year career. um, how did you get into natural medicine? I know you may have told this story before, but I know people listening will be absolutely fascinated.
I grew up Greek Cypriot background, so I was exposed to Mediterranean diet
Yep.
and also herbs. I was even just telling my partner Paul about this. It's like it wasn't a thing that you. It wasn't so witchy poo and magical in that sense. I didn't realize it's not until later you think, actually, hold on one moment.
Yep.
We were, given aniseed and chamomile and things to take when you're
Sage
sick
tea.
and unwell. Exactly. And,
Yeah.
The
and
everyday
you grew
lifestyle.
herbs, and we ate bitter weeds.
Yeah.
That was just normal. We ate weeds, bitter weeds. We didn't know what weeds were. We just thought they were green things that you ate that were in salad. And then also I found a book on my parents' bookshelf. I've told this story 1,000 times. So for anyone listening, I'm so sorry, but it's a
No,
good
go.
story. The book was called How to Get Well by Paavo Ariola,
Right.
and he was a naturopathic physician. It's old, such an old book. I think it was published in the year that I was born, 1971. So I am really how old I am, and and it astonished me. I don't know what it was. I just thought that's what I need to do and be, and that's then I proceeded forward and we had a family naturopath. She was a family friend, and I became her intern while I was studying naturopathy. And I started at the age of 18 or 19, and then finished, and then thought I could just have a clinic and see 7 patients a day, 5 days a week. It's not how it goes, as we
No.
all know.
No.
But I was really persistent and consistent, and it was just in my blood. That's what I had to do.
Yeah.
That's just what I wanted to do. And I wanted to be of service and help people. And I really, when I say this, I had my knickers in a knot. I really did about how we self-care and healthcare, even at such a young age. I don't know why, I just had it
Incredible.
there.
I love that.
I was lucky that I was able to have it cultivated as well.
Yeah. So your family was supportive by the sounds of it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah, which is good. And then it just grew, and I think it was an era before social media, before, like, we were handwriting in patient files and folders. It's not the technology that we have now. And then I really persistent and consistent. It was really hard to start a business. What were we to know? Except that I had really, unbeknownst to me, smartly positioned myself in an area in the eastern suburbs where a lot of people would come here. I had a really beautiful clinic.
You do.
It was visually beautiful, visually attractive, and people were really intrigued. There weren't as many naturopaths around when I started. And I just was at it and at it and at it and at it. And then I created a brand, and then that exposed me to more people. And I created a shop front because it's what you did, bricks and mortar.
Yep.
So people saw what we were doing and the theater of making herbs and teas. And
I remember walking into your clinic, as we were discussing a month or two ago, I don't know, 15 odd years ago, and you were the famous Anthia, of course, and I was brand new to the industry, I think. And
so funny, I don't see it that way. But anyway, thank you.
And I was just like awed by the aesthetic of the place. And I think that's something that really struck me. Like, everything you do has this, and you can see it in your surroundings just on screen. Everything you do has this real sense of precision and beauty to it. Where does that come from? Is that just your personality?
I think so. Maybe if anyone's into astrology, maybe it is my Libran personality.
There you go. So I'm a Libran as well.
There you go. Always striving for balance. Bronte, what star sign are you?
I'm a Capricorn.
I have a friend who's a Capricorn, and I love her dearly. So there's not many Capricorns that I know. So
well, we seem to.
Aesthetics are really important to me. What was that?
We seem to get along with the Librans very well, the Capricorns.
Good. I think so. Yeah. But yeah, aesthetics are important, and it's just not about the veneer of what something should look like.
No.
It has to be beautiful on the inside as well. And so, yeah, I don't know where that came from within me. I just put it down. I'm just the Libran.
Yeah.
We like aesthetically good things.
Love it. I love it. We're going to talk about hormonal balance, and I know, Bronte, you've taken a particular angle on this, which is stress-induced and stress-related hormonal imbalances.
Yeah.
Anthia, from what I understand of your practice, this makes up a significant part of the type of patients you see.
Hugely. So, Bronte, thank you so much, because this is a big area of love for me particularly. And I think because I've experienced huge stress, and I knew how that was impacting me. It's what I see day in, day out, and I always like to put the lens of the nervous system on top of, in front of everything that I see, because I think it's the nervous system that does a lot of talking to the different organs and body systems and influences our choices. So maybe can I give some context as to
Yes, please.
for people out there who don't think of it this way? If you think of the nervous system as a 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, surveilling the scene through senses, taste, smell, hearing, touch, vision. I think that I missed that one. And we're constantly surveilling whether the area that we're in or the place that we're in or within ourselves, are we safe enough to connect, or do we need to protect?
Yeah.
And as we know, stress can be anything. It can be emotional. It could be some thought. It could be a memory. It could be someone said something mean. It could be we lost all our emails, whatever it might be. It could be an injury, an infection, inflammation that as we know, the body accumulates all that stress, and we activate that sympathetic part of our nervous system, which everyone likes to call fight and flight.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, why is that important? Is because it takes us away from our rest and digest, our natural state of being, our state where we naturally flow and ebb and heal and regulate. It's when our regulated state is when digestive system is on, we've got amazing motility and digestion and absorption, and we are able to heal and recuperate and rest well, and immune system is switched on. But in fight, flight, all that energy gets diverted to the areas that we need to help us survive and meet those survival needs of protection. So we fight, move towards, or we flight, move away.
Yep.
And with that come those emotions of frustration and anger and irritation and anxiety. And what's left and what's secondary to that is gut health and immunity, and because
and reproductive health, of course, as well, right?
And reproductive, and that's why I like to call that regulated state rest, digest, nest.
I love that.
Yeah, it's a really good way to help clients and patients really understand it. And so if all that energy is diverted away and we're in this fight flight response to address this stressor, we're producing lots of glucose, lots of adrenaline, lots of oxygen, lots of cortisol to meet this stress. And then if stress persists and it becomes chronic and ongoing, whatever the cause of stress, we then move into our emergency state called the freeze state. This is a good state, a great survival state, but I find patients will be sitting in that state for long periods of time as well. From the I can state of fight, flight to I can't, overwhelm. And that state starts to depress everything and dissociate you from that acute stress or ongoing stress. And we don't feel as deeply, we don't see or hear as acutely, because it's protecting us. But everything gets really flattened out. Everything goes down like this. And so when I explain that to patients, whatever they're experiencing physically or emotionally through that lens of the nervous system, it's like, well, my job is to help position you into a regulated state, not fake it till you make it, because we don't do that. It's about understanding that at any given moment, do you have enough resources in that rest, digest, nest state? Like, do you have enough rest? Are you digesting well? Are you eating well? Are you getting enough sunlight, sleep? Are you looking after yourself? So then you can flexibly transition from that nice regulated resting state to fight, flight when required, because we're not immune to stress. Rather than go from fight, flight as the base up to freeze and back down again.
Where do you start though? So would you start, or does it vary by patient? Do you start with psychology or do you start with physiology?
Both, wherever the road leads me. So it's whatever the patient will share. So it just depends what their starting point is, how much they're connected to what is going on as well, depending on their symptoms. So sometimes we start with the symptom that is visible and we just follow that little trail. Patients reveal a lot if you hold the space of safety. So, I'll bring in co-regulation if I'm regulated, and that's the
Yep.
best gift that I can give my patient so they feel comfortable enough to share because they have all the answers. I'm just being a good detective in a good place, safe place for them.
So
And
I love that concept.
Yeah.
Can we double click on they have all the answers? Because that's
yeah,
fascinating. You very rarely hear that said.
they do. They may not realize they do, but their parts are speaking parts that might be, and a part in psychology could be, an individual that could be the critic that's carrying on about something that
Yep.
is not right or wrong, but there's different parts that reveal different symptoms, different feelings, and our job is to really listen in and have conversations with them as a whole, but with the parts as well, and drawing it out safely. Now, I try not to impose what I think is safe for them because
Yeah.
that's a bit of a trick. I create a safe environment and I'm regulated, so I give them that. But what makes them feel safe? Is it a cup of tea? Is it a glass of water? I let them lead, and then that will take us through. I'm also
That's
conscious if someone is freeze, they're not present, that makes it a bit tricky.
yeah. Did you take part in any counselling courses or anything to use on top of your naturopathy, or is this something that you've always had a natural instinct for?
I think it is a natural instinct, but I think because I've been there
Right.
and experienced all of that stress, I went through a monumental business stress, and it took me to those places, and I'm glad for it. I recognize it in my patients, and I think it's really important as practitioners that we meet that you can give someone the best diet, tell them to take the best supplements,
Yeah.
but if they're in a dysregulated state, that's just another chore, another job.
Totally.
Yeah, and so it's about that positioning, I think, is super critical. And yeah, sometimes I think it's important mind, body, spirit, emotions, shadow. I'm
Yeah.
reading a lot of, making sure that it's a holistic approach. I can't leave the mind and the emotions out of this
What are
work.
the symptoms? What are the symptoms you normally see? So,
Yeah,
and feel free, obviously, anonymize the person, but what a typical person walking into your practice.
they'll be fatigued. They'll have
Mm.
really low energy levels. I mean, I had a patient today that was swinging between colds and flus and gastro over an entire year.
Yeah, it's so common, hey?
So common and so much stress at breaking point that I was the first person he actually told that to and was in tears. Patients who don't sleep, classic 2 to 3 a.m. wake up, they're not
Yep.
sleeping. Patients who, yeah, anxiety is a big one, and depression, and also all the reproductive hormonal imbalances from heavy periods to period pains to PMS, lots of perimenopause popping up because it's like, yes, there's a word for what I'm feeling. And, we catch them at that 42,
Yep.
43. Am I
Yep.
going crazy, Anthea? It's like, no, but let me be your light bearer and let me tell you what can happen. Having, me as a person going through perimenopause is like, oh my goodness. And
So
I consider myself healthy, right?
what's that nexus between perimenopause, stress, and hormones?
Yes. So we in perimenopause, our progesterone is plunging from the greatest height
Yes.
down, crashing quickly, and that feels awful. And because progesterone is such a balmer and a soother to our nervous system and our adrenals, it's like someone's just yanked out this one tool that we had to cope with everyday stresses.
Yep.
So it's like, what am I going to do now? And so things that we could tolerate before, suddenly we can't tolerate.
Okay.
And it's like you need to redirect. It's like all of a sudden, it's like you're in this brand new world of coping. How do we cope now then? But it kind of doesn't make sense because it can feel quite maddening. And I think the problem is because I consider myself very healthy in that
Yep.
I am because I do all the things. I walk the talk. But I like anyone else, I'm not immune to stress, and I know how to manage it. I know how to regulate my nervous system. I just think, God, I'd be wildly out there then if I wasn't doing all of this stuff. And I remember my mum going through it, and it was pretty full on. I think there's a lot of stress, technology, information that we're exposed to and can't process it quickly enough.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of things that are taxing on our reserves. And when we don't have that beautiful progesterone, which helps us manage that, and then we're going through this estrogen storm, it can feel quite diabolically physically and emotionally. And so we're looking for those solutions, which you've created the solutions, by the way, lovely support for the inevitable. Now, not all women go through perimenopausal symptoms or menopausal symptoms, but those that do, is having an awareness, having all the tools in place to transition well.
Yeah.
Because women that come to me are not looking for hormone replacement therapy. They want to age intentionally. I heard that's a new term today. Aging intentionally. So it's not about anti-aging.
Because every conversation I'm having, every book I'm reading, is referencing perimenopause now, whereas you didn't hear the term that long ago.
No. I think thank you to people like Lara Bright, and there's been some really good authors who've talked about it a lot. And also now women feel like, oh yeah, where am I at this present time? Stuff that bothered me, I could cope with it, it was all right. But then it's like PMS. I don't know, Bronte, if you ever think of PMS this way, if you get PMS, it's always an opportunity for things to get highlighted that need addressing.
Absolutely.
And so perhaps perimenopause is part of that as well. Yeah. But maybe, just maybe, these are things that we shouldn't be just coping with.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's this thinking now, and I've thought a lot about this in the last couple of years, actually, not that I probably have any right to, but there's almost this sense that a woman's hormonal fingerprint is almost, as you said, like her intuitive guide to how to live her life, isn't it? Could you comment on that?
I think so, and I agree. And women are either tuned into it or not, and it just depends what else they're doing, because I think they're realizing we can't do it all. Who said that we had to do it all? Why do we want to do it all? Why do we need to fill up every single space and second with stuff? We're not tuning into being guided, if that's what you believe. I believe it's so. To do what we need to do, the things that because we're not going to do it. And I'm so glad people have written about this, like Oliver Burkeman.
Yeah. Have you read this book? I love it.
Yeah, I love it too, because we have finite time. What are you going to do?
4,000 weeks, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's spectacular. It's spectacular. I reckon it's a must read.
I think so too. I think everyone should read that book.
That is my list.
Elizabeth Gilbert said, and this struck me, I went to a seminar. She was speaking at a big seminar, and the lady who wrote Eat, Pray, Love, for those who don't know, and she said, what thing are you going to stop doing that you love so much to really do the things that you really, really, really want to do? Because of course we love so many things.
It's the paradox of choice, I think, isn't it? Which I think Berkman references as well, which is we've got so many options available to us in a 2023 modern Western life that it's almost too many choices, basically, isn't it?
Yeah, and it either paralyzes people, or people are trying to do everything. And I want to linger longer and do things much more deeply, more meaningful. I don't want to do everything. I'm so glad I really got that piece. It's like, no, I want to be like at a painting for 1 billion years and go for it as long as I can. And that's why I like, the work that I do, because I get to deep dive into the work that we do.
Yeah, it's not a little pulse interaction in the back of a pharmacy. It's a very drawn out kind of integrated process, isn't it?
Yeah.
I love that. And this is not that it's coming from a place of personal inquiry, of course, but
Yeah.
this is hormones are not just about women. Men
Say that
are
again.
hormonal health is not just about women, right?
Exactly.
And I think we forget about the blokes who, don't know why they're feeling sad all of a sudden, or as you said earlier, have suddenly reduced energy levels to what they're used to, or, maybe muscle growth is not where it once was. Um, do you see any of that in practice?
I see a lot of that, um, and I see a lot of that because I find that with women becoming more and more in their light or in their space, the men are probably maybe not able to find their own footing as to, I thought this was my role and maybe this
Yeah.
is not my role and maybe this is something different now. And I think also men who are think should be retiring, are meant to be retiring, they there isn't there aren't these kind of different stepping stones. Like as women, we're kind of lucky because we've got all these different stages and opportunities, and I don't think men have that as much. They could, and I hear there's lots of men's groups forming around different topics and different ages, and I think it's a really important conversation that, yeah, I think especially in this space of wellness, because we see a lot of women in this space and not as many men. But I would say I see 40% males,
Okay.
60%
Really?
females.
That's great.
Same symptomology, so still the same energy issues and so on.
Same things,
Yeah. Yeah.
really same things, and um, same emotions, same amount of tears. And
Really?
I love that.
yes, and how cool is that? Just when you think it's, and when people cry in my space, I think that's so nice that they feel comfortable enough to cry. They're always
Absolutely.
apologizing, and it's like, no, no, this is the crying room. Or,
That's when the real healing can begin.
I mean, totally, totally complex topic, but I guess let's move into, and forgive me for doing this, a little bit into day in the life solutions focused thinking. So I'm a lady. Let's use a lady for example. She's in her late 40s. She walks into your practice. She's low on energy. Her mood's all over the place. She's overwhelmed with work and family. She's otherwise reasonably healthy. Where do you start?
yeah. Well, I get to know them, and I ask a lot of questions, and I allow them to lead as well, and share as much as they would like to share. And sometimes, if they don't know where to start, we start with their presenting symptom of fatigue.
Yep.
And then sometimes the conversation will flow into, oh, yeah, by the way, I've got this symptom and this symptom, or I've got hemorrhoids and I've got mouth ulcers. And so then I write,
Yep.
and I can write and look at and be really present with my patients or clients, and they see me writing. So I've got this really big screen, so I start creating little headings and we almost like start fleshing it out, and it's like that process validates and honors
Yeah.
all their symptoms just through me writing it and hearing it. And it's like a gathering of information. By the end, like we gather as much how you self-care, how you health care, what's going on at home, who's supporting you, what do you eat, like all of that. We gather as much as we can. We cover a lot. And then what have you already been doing?
Yep.
Great, fantastic, and validate and acknowledge that. What else can we be doing? That is there time and energy really to do that? And I always ask, do you want something to support you right now? Like, can we make changes that would create more time and space and regulation of your nervous system so we can deeply heal?
Yep.
Do we need just some first aid at this present time? Or do we need to further test? Like, do we need, so sometimes patients will come in with blood test results, hormone test results, stool analysis from someone else, and I'm looking at that as well. Do we need to repeat testing? Has the testing been thorough enough?
Yep.
I think what it is, I think the work that we do is to validate and acknowledge and make sure that patients feel heard,
Yep.
much more willing to be open, much more willing to be trusting, more willing to go, what do you think we should do, Anthea? Or actually, I need something for this now, but yes, let's look deeply at the same time as to what else has been going on. So I think when patients see that they've got a zinc deficiency or an iron deficiency, and I explain why it's not just about taking supplements, bring up your levels. And it's not to bring up your levels so you can do more to keep burning out. It's about so we can find a different way of being that is more sustainable so you don't end up back here again.
Yeah.
So while we're waiting for results, I might do some really simple diet and lifestyle recommendations. We might give them some things that will support their adrenals and their nervous system if I find that they're really stressed out.
Yeah.
It's so individual and bespoke. There is no one size fits all in my practice.
No,
but
and nor should
makes
there
it
be.
harder work for me at the same time, but it's the only way I can do it. Yeah.
And how often will you see these people? Just so they'll go away, you'll give them something to take, they may go get some more testing. How long is this process generally?
So it could be 2 weeks, it could be 4 weeks. I don't leave it any longer than that. If there is a patient who's really well versed, it's someone I've seen before but I haven't seen in years and they know the gist of what needs to happen, then I could let them go for 6 weeks. But I also have a full-time assistant that follows up after 3 days, after a week. They are open to email me with any questions at any time. So I invest in that for them. I charge accordingly, but I'm in constant communication.
This is your amazing Heidi.
Yes. Yeah. Heidi was away at getting married and it's like, you can't leave me. Yeah, other feelings, but there is a process of collaboration.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I think it's a word that you've used, co-creating wellness. Yeah. And I'm not a big overprescriber. I prescribe accordingly. I think because I've seen so many patients that come along and just dump big bags of supplements. And it's like, who prescribed this? Why are you taking this? Self-prescribed. I don't know why I'm taking it. Someone said to take it. So I'm sifting through that stuff. It's like less is best, really specific, targeted, quality.
At least they bring it in to show you, I guess. That's something.
Oh my goodness, it's wild what people are taking.
So I'll tell you my guilty pleasure. You ready?
Yes.
Visiting people's houses and going in their supplement drawers.
I love that.
I'm like, why did you buy that? What are you taking that for?
Isn't that the funnest exercise?
I reckon it tells you so much about someone.
Yes. It tells us so much. Like, I just would never think to do that. And I think people must be in so much pain and discomfort and they're so in need of something. So if someone says, take this, whereas we're thinking drug interactions, cautions or contraindications, constitution, temperature type, where you are in your cycle.
Yeah.
So because I want to give something that works, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want people to waste their money.
But I think I want to come back to something you said, which is if you're in that sort of freeze or just making it through state of mind, state of being, and someone says, take this, it's a great product and it's going to help you, of course you're going to jump on it.
Of course. Yeah, makes sense to me. And that's why there's no shame in it. There's really no shame because it totally makes sense. People are so uncomfortable and in so much distress and so much pain. Of course, if someone says this will help, and then they do, and it doesn't because they're obviously not meeting what is the underlying contributing factors. And sometimes there's some really good stuff, and sometimes there isn't. And I think that's part of it as well, is when you're seeing the practitioner, you're getting that service of working out what you need specifically.
Totally.
It's not to pan everything that's out there, and it's not just about practitioner only as well, because both sides.
No, but I think to the extent to the extent that someone can afford to have a conversation with a practitioner, just even to get them on the right track,
I know.
you can save years of wasted effort and time.
You absolutely can. And I feel very fortunate that I have a thriving clinical business, because I think it must be hard by memory of what it was like to be a young practitioner
Yep.
starting out. It's like, but I know what I can do to help you, and people are still buying things over the counter.
Yep.
And I think as the more you do it, so if any practitioners listening out there and you're really young, you're just going to be really consistent and persistent and do really good work and pay attention to your patients and clients with the utmost care and respect for everything and anything that they're experiencing. And they will refer you. That is how my business
Yeah.
works. It is all through patient referral. And yeah, and if you're doing good work, other people are going to tell other people about it. And it's not about curing, it's really about meeting where people are at. And it's moments in time. We know that we're not going to be there for the entire journey.
Mm.
I'm just part of it. Sometimes I'll see a patient and then I don't see them until a year later. They weren't ready. And it's amazing. It's so strange. I think, wow, I must have said something a year ago.
It's not uncommon, hey.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's this resistance, probably understandable, around paying for advice,
Mm.
because there's a perception, I think, that, oh, we just jump on the web and we'll find a book and we'll follow an Instagram account, and it's all there. The solutions are all there. But as we know as practitioners, that's not even scratching the surface. And I think, to your point, none of that advice is bespoke to you as an individual.
No, it becomes even more overwhelming, because then
It
you're in
does.
this forest of like, where do I begin?
Absolutely.
And that's our job. I say, I will help you find where you begin. That's what I'm here for, and I'm there to support and light up the path that I think needs some attention. And you do, as I said, you have all the answers. It's just that you're too busy to tune into them.
Yeah,
And
interesting.
yeah.
So you're an author among your many other talents.
Hmm.
Why did you focus on food? Why a cookbook?
Yeah. So it was a time, it was 2014. I had started writing the book in 2012. And it was a time where so many people were eating fats, not eating fats, eat carbs, don't eat carbs. It was just
Totally.
like a mess out there.
Yet another area where diet is like religion. It's like
Yeah, such addictions. And I thought, this is bonkers, like
Yep.
really bonkers, because people are missing out, and still they're not teaching this in nutrition and dietetics. Still to this day, because I have a lot of different interns that come through. Source and processing is what it's about. It's the
Yeah.
quality of the food, like the quality of the supplements,
Yep.
what's in them. So source means the health of plants and animals and soil and farming, and it's putting the human back in that space of the environment and nature. And processing, source and processing, is what happens to food at the factory, and what happens to food in this end, this human body of digestion and absorption, elimination, and liver metabolism. And it made just common sense to me that people were missing the point, creating diets for a specific symptom or ailment, rather than what have we evolved to eat.
Yep.
Let's be kinder to the environment. Um, and I started off with, we're omnivores, we've evolved to eat plants and animals, our gut biome dictates that. And I don't want to get into, my job isn't to convert vegans or vegetarians
No.
into meat. People choose what they want to choose, but I thought that at least get the source and processing correct.
Yeah.
Because that equates to quality, because we know how many people are eating well but still deficient.
Yep.
How many people are eating well but still anxious and still taking lots of supplements.
But I just want to stop you for a second, because I love, that's a bit of a breakthrough comment you just made, which is, I understand source really well,
Mm.
but the fact that our bodies are part of the processing step, that's a fascinating idea. I love it.
And then processing, it's like getting a patient onto eating whole foods and they can't because their digestive system can't process it because they're used to eating
Right.
food that's already been processed out of their digestive system. And don't get me started on food additives and toxic chemicals that are
Yep.
found in food. People aren't eating enough of the right macronutrients, they're not getting the right source, they're not preparing food well. So when I wrote this, I wrote it and it's actually been republished
It's
and
coming out again, right, for 2023.
it came out in January, like a fresh new copy. I need to send you a fresh new copy.
Got it.
Um, I wrote it, and I knew it was never going to be a fad. It's not like my friend Sarah who wrote "I Quit Sugar." Like people are going to
Yep.
run with that. You know, I knew it was never going to be that because marketing loves very specific, acute things like that people can connect to really quickly.
Yep.
I didn't write it for mass. I wrote it for my patients and clients. And I wrote it for me because I thought it cannot be this complicated. So the first half of the book is all about source and processing. I talk about food auditing, forget about nutritional panel, look at the ingredients of the
Yep.
foods because we know that carbs can be good or bad depending on the source and processing.
Absolutely.
And I am a big advocate of nose to tail and waist. And so that was a big part of it. The other didn't make sense not to consider that. And traditional cultural eating, and then looking at my culture, then looking at other cultures. I loved the work of Weston A. Price. It made so much sense to me.
Yep.
And then the second half is just traditional recipes. When I released it, I'd been writing it before activated nuts and things like that had come to the fashion, and bone broth and fermented foods. And
Yep.
it's just the timing of publishing, so I couldn't even, be a part of that wave enough. It didn't matter. I had to remember I wrote this for my patients
Yep.
and my clients, and I wrote this for me. And it's the thread of a lot of the work that I do, but I also know it's not enough. I love a seasonal health cleanse and reset,
Yes.
even though the word cleanse and detox is a dirty words. I wrote
Yes.
that in my latest newsletter. I never know what to call it. So to define it really simply, it's just a paring back of stuff that we don't need, whether it's stuff that we're doing and stuff that we're consuming, diet, what we apply, minimizing exposure to toxic chemicals, making way for things that we do need to nourish and regulate ourselves. So
Yep.
that's my definition of a cleanse and a detox. It's not about fads and fasting to the nth degree or purging and laxatives to the nth degree.
Yep.
So that's another cornerstone of the work I do because, and I include a little bit of that in there because we need to pare back processed food to bring in what we're more evolved to eat. And then resetting the digestive processes is part of that.
Absolutely. Well, nutrient assimilation is everything, right?
Yeah.
So health literacy, and another one of your projects or your babies is Akademeia. Tell us about that.
So I thought of it as I've I thought of it as a time in my life. I'm writing another book. I'm always writing other books in the
Cool.
background, and
Can you
because I
give
have a
us the
lot to
topic for the
say.
next one?
There's some hints.
It's to do with it's to do with nervous system, and it's about that honoring and validating the symptoms and feelings.
Brilliant.
Because people treat themselves appallingly.
Yeah.
It so upsets me. It's like, I hate this, I want to fight this, I want to get rid of this. And it's like, that little symptom is so golden. That is the clue to so many things.
Yeah.
I'm going to honor it. Thank you very much that it exists within you. And it's changing that dialogue. So it's the step before we plunge into the deeper healing. So I'm really happy about that and the process and the progress of that. What did we get to?
Akademeia.
Akademeia. So
Am I
for
saying that correctly, by the way?
you are.
Oh, okay, cool.
No. The reason for that is because I've got lots of clinical experience that I want to share.
Yep.
I like getting things out of me, otherwise they they end up making me go a bit bonkers because they're always circulating out. So it's like, you know, when you journal and you get stuff out
Yeah.
onto paper. And I'm in the background at the moment. So the school is building with little mini master classes and little workshops and programs. It takes time, and obviously you can see with the work that I'm been implementing with the ebook, it takes time to do something like that super
Absolutely.
well, and that it meets people and it lands well, and they're little openers and entrees before people can meet with me, because some people maybe want to better understand the work that I do.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not that people can't afford me. Of course, you know, everyone has different income brackets, but I want people to be able to get started on some really good stuff quickly and immediately if they can. It's really important for me to for people to feel that they're not just part of a system that brings them in and spits them out.
Yeah. Yeah.
That they feel good about doing what they're doing and understand it.
So is that a free resource for people, or is that part of a program that someone takes on?
No, I think I give away a lot of free stuff
Yeah.
in content writing and newsletters and what I put out on social media, and a lot of free stuff, and also lots of free consults for people who I feel are financially struggling. So no, it has to be a source of income for me,
Yeah.
that stream. And that's good for me. I'll do lots of free live webinars that,
Yeah.
you know, that are part of it. Yeah, I'll be really honest with that stuff because it
No.
does consume
I
a lot
think
of
it's a
time.
huge investment of your time and energy. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
And as much as I love it, of course, that it, you know, I try to keep to 20 patients a week. My 20 patients might be someone else's 40
yeah.
patients, in that I invest a lot of time with my 20.
Yeah.
And the rest of the time is writing.
Amazing.
Mm.
And your teas? Tell
Yes.
us about the new tea range.
So I think many people know my previous company, which I had for 16 years. So I created a really, I think it was a
It
successful tea
was.
company that was served in cafes and restaurants. And unfortunately, that was my big stress, that I lost that company to a new business partner. And it floored me because it was such an identity, the business name.
Totally.
And then it was this realization that actually I'm the
Yep.
business. It's so weird to be behind a brand. It's like, hold on a second, they're buying what I'm offering.
100%.
And
Yep.
I quickly realized, and I thought, tea is in my blood. Like it is, I love tea and tisanes and herbs and the botanical world. And no one's going to stop me from creating the thing and the means of helping my patients feel better. I see
Yep.
it as part of regulation. And so I just restarted. It's not at the it's not nowhere near of the amount of wholesale customers that I had before. And I don't want that now, which
Yep.
is good. I don't need to do any more of that. I don't need to prove anything about that. And again, I created these teas and tisanes for my clients and my community and the cafes and restaurants that were waiting on the sidelines for me, which is very
Oh, I bet
cool.
they were. I bet they were.
So nice. I'm very lucky, I have to say. And I'm like, yes, you can have this if you really want it. I
They're
don't know why
back.
you can have it if you want it.
No, but I think, I mean, as I said when we started this conversation, like it's such a genuine part of how you prescribe.
Hmm.
You know, teas are absolutely part of any protocol that I think someone walks out of your clinic with, right? So
Yeah,
just that very intimate knowledge of how teas work in clinical practice, I think, is what sets you apart.
yeah. And they're beautiful recipes,
Yep.
and they're recipes that we know as herbalist that we make up a herbal tonic.
Yep.
They're pleasant
Yeah.
tasting. Yeah, there's nothing that I make that is not pleasant in taking. I think bitters and herbal bitters are fine. That's one thing, and a lot of people thrive on those bitters
Yep.
and love it. But with tea, it's different. Teas slow down, pause,
Yeah.
regulate, meet symptoms,
It's a
and
ritual.
it's a ritual.
Bronte, I think you just went to a tea ceremony, right?
Yes, I go to tea ceremonies regularly, actually. It's just a beautiful opportunity to pause, like you said, and sit in silence and enjoy a beautiful cup of tea.
Yeah.
But it's the original herbal decoction. I mean, it's the original extraction methodology,
It
right? So,
is. It really is. It's so delightful. And
yeah,
I think I'll always make teas. It's always the thing like people, because at the level I have it, it's not a business that makes money.
yeah.
And I'm okay with that because I actually can't stop making it because I love it so much. And it's a lovely accessory to the work that I do. And I yeah, and also for it to be that big a brand, it would take away from other things that I love to do. And that's
Yeah,
where I had to choose, okay, Anthea, there's only so much time. What are you going to do with your time?
yeah.
With what you know thus far after 28 years of clinical practice? And it's like, I'm going to consult until I'm a little old lady and I'm going to keep writing whatever comes forward for me to share, whatever sinks in as aha, of course I'm going to share that. And you know how to make teas? Yep, that's great, down pat. But that's not what's going to move and shake things up and really meet people.
I love it. What do you want to say to people out there? I mean, if you had to give people, the back of an index card, I've got one here. Here we go. In terms of things that they should remember about their health, um, what would you say to a large audience?
Oh, that's really big. I think the first thing that came to mind was really be kind to yourself and slow down and pause a lot because you're missing out on so much stuff that actually is intel. It's stuff that is trying to tell you. It's talking to you when you're not paying it attention. And that honor, validate, kindness, and that's why I had to write a book on that piece of it, of course, because I think that just opens up the world
Yeah,
to healing.
yeah. I love it. I can't wait for this new book.
I better run
You better get back to writing. We're coming up on our time, and I want to really honor and respect the fact that it is your evening, and no doubt you're at the end of another busy day. Thank you so much for joining us.
I really have loved the questions. Really, probably the best interview I've ever had.
Oh my goodness.
Seriously good. I really appreciate it so much. And can I just say, and I said it to you over the phone,
Yeah,
you created a product that I would have created. And I'm not just saying that. I said it to you quietly. There
you
was
did.
no one else there
Yeah, you
listening
did.
to that. Because when I came across it, I was like, hold on a second. Something, when these things, you think of these things and you always have an image and a vision of what you would create as practitioners, of
Yep.
course. And it's like, I'm so glad he grabbed it and he did it. It had to be done. And I just think you've created something super quality. And,
Thank you.
I'm all about source and processing. So I truly appreciate it. I would not, a lot of people will ask for me to have conversations with, but I'm just genuinely, it's so nice to see something really good out there. So well done, you.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. It means a huge amount to me, as you know. So thank
Mm,
you.
yeah.
Lovely to see you. Let us know how we can help. Let us know about the new book when it's ready. And of course, everyone, the Restoring Hormonal Balance ebook is out very, very soon.
Yeah.
Thanks,
So good.
guys.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Have a good
Thanks,
night.
Anthea. Have a
Bye.
lovely evening.